everyone, please tell me I'm not frozen.
It stopped with your hands like that, but now you're good.
Okay, cool, because I see there's a little Wi-Fi icon at the top, and it's making me nervous. Hey, everyone, I'm having some internet problems apparently, and I have no idea how I'm supposed to run this show because it's my turn to host. But welcome to Fun with Flags anyway. Why don't you introduce yourself? Well, hopefully the internet gets better on my end.
Well, you were actually doing fine, so you can keep
All right,
going.
cool. Better. How are you doing, Soda?
I'm doing good. Clearly better than you.
Well, I mean, that's an understatement considering everything that's been happening, but
Well, I
that's a.
mean, like right now in the moment, not in general.
All right, fine. That I didn't catch that. Uh, yeah. So welcome to Fun with Flags, and look, the apparently the Wi-Fi thing got sorted out. Oh, it's
Yeah.
back again. You know what? Fuck it. Let's just do the show.
Yep.
So
Proceed.
this is Fun with Flags, the show where we teach each other about our individual countries. Teach my friend Soda about Israel, and Soda teaches me about um, Canada. But since we're friends, before we get started,
Yep.
how's your week been, man? Because we haven't talked in a while.
My week's been okay. I mean, there's not really nothing eventful that happens. I work and I come home, watch TV, play video games. I really don't lead an exciting life.
Your life is pretty enviable. I'll
Oh,
say
yeah,
that.
compared, of course.
Now, as Einstein said, everything is relative. Well, and on my side, I'm doing fine. I'm mostly back to regular schedule at work after the craziness of the last couple of weeks. So yeah, things are doing fine for me.
Nice.
So yeah, let's jump right into the topic, right? This is
Totally.
this is what we're here for, right? So as I mentioned up top, every week we meet up for the show, and Soda teaches me something about Canada, and I teach him about something about Israel. And considering recent events that have been happening around the world, I figured it would be important for people to learn the history of Israel, or more specifically, the history of the land of Israel, not just the state, but the land, because the land has been here for a very long time, and for most of that time, it's been populated by the Jews, despite what some people try to dispute. And is a very fascinating history with and very fascinating connection between the Jewish people and the land of Israel. And someone decided to uh, make a profit out of it, and that someone is my dad. My dad, uh,
Naturally.
my dad sells these detailed timelines of the land of Israel. He sells a lot of things. He's got his own online shop. You can check it out later if you want. But one of the things that he sells there and really caught my eye, and I think one of the first few things that went on in the store is this detailed timeline with all the different time periods that have befallen this uh, frankly amazing stretch of land. And so we're now going to break it all down. Well, we're going to go over each individual period from this timeline of events. I'm going to give you a heads up in advance. There are 16 periods in this timeline, and we're going to take a gander at all of them. Now, the format of this timeline that he has is mainly a picture thing. There's hold on. Let's start off with the first one. Uh, there's this little title card right here saying the specific period itself, the time that it started in, and a little cartoon illustration that helps illustrate the situation. And on the back, there's a list of important events that happened by year. Now, this is an older format. Okay, I'm going to give you an advance. This is an older format.
I can
So
tell.
yeah, some of the things aren't quite up to date, and he's recently come up with a new one, a more detailed one, and frankly, a much longer breakdown. But thankfully for you, he hasn't had time to translate it to English yet.
Whew.
So, so we're just gonna go over the older format with the slightly less historical events that happened in each of the 16 time periods. Now, since I know you like to talk over me and interrupt, I figured we just do an interesting uh, back and forth of we just I just show the card with all the interesting events that happened, and we each in turn take a turn to read one of the interesting things that happened.
Sure, works for me.
Right? So, going all the way back to the beginning, what do you think would be the first time period, the name of the first period that happened in the land of Israel?
The beginning.
That's an interesting one, but do you want to take a secondary guess before I show it to you?
Dude, you remember, I don't know anything about where you live outside of what you tell me.
I'll give you a hint. It's pretty obvious.
Unless it's got Israel in the name, I'm going to say no, it's not.
It doesn't.
Dude, put me out of my misery.
The Stone Age.
Fuck off.
I told you it was obvious. That was the hint.
We're really going all the way back. Okay.
Yep. Until 4,800 BCE. Remember, this is the history of the land, not the people.
Yeah.
That's why Stone Age makes sense. I don't think I need to explain what the Stone Age is to people, so let's just jump right into it. And I'm going to read out the first one. So from 250, 100,000 all the way up to 10,000 BCE was the early Stone Age. Now, this is going a little bit off topic, but officially, scientists estimate that the evolution of men happened around 1.8 million years ago. So around less than 2 million years ago, humans have been in their proper human form on this planet. And so for hundreds of thousands of years, there really wasn't much of anything of note that happened. For clarification, what people know as the last ice age happened around 20,000 years ago. Okay, so this was all in and around this first period that I just mentioned. So between 250, 100,000 to 10,000. So would you like to read out the next one? It's going from the bottom to the top.
So 100,000 signs of man's presence in the Carmel.
Carmel is a mountain in the northern area of Israel, next to the Israeli city of Haifa. Now, if we're gonna run into something that needs explaining, I'll take a few seconds to explain what it is. But because we got such a long thing to break down here, we're not gonna stay too long on one specific thing.
Nope, because it's almost 3 a.m. for you.
I don't care. I didn't work tomorrow, so fuck it. I don't care. So yeah, Carmel is a mountain. I did have a topic specifically about that mountain that I was gonna do.
Yep.
Next month. Not sure if I'll have the time to get it ready, but here's hoping.
Never know.
So next one, around 12,000 BCE, the emergence of villages. So we went from the first signs of men, well, people. Let's not be too gender-ish. First signs of people in the area of the Carmel. Now we have the emergence of villagers. Your turn.
At 11,000, we have the Natufian culture.
Yeah, the Natufian culture is believed to be a pre-Neolithic society. So basically, before agriculture was a thing.
Okay.
It was the first proper civilization, but they weren't advanced enough to have agriculture. From 10,000 BCE to 7,500 BCE was the Middle Stone Age. Go ahead next.
From 8,500 to 8,000, you have the agriculture in the land of Israel.
Yep. So first we get the Natufian culture without agriculture. This is around the time where agriculture started. On 7,000 BCE was the first wall built at Jericho. Jericho is
Yeah.
well, what?
I know about Jericho.
It's widely believed to be the first and oldest city
Mhm.
in the land of Israel. It's not explicitly mentioned as such in the Bible, but from
Well,
our
outside of the fall of Jericho.
yeah, but I mean, no, I said as such,
Oh,
as the first city. But according to archaeological findings, they date back to before
Mhm.
any of the other cities, which I can't remember what the first city's name in the Bible. It's the city that Cain goes to after killing Abel. I can't remember the name of the
I don't
city.
remember.
I mean, neither. But that's the first city mentioned in the Bible. But Jericho has archaeological findings that predate
Mhm.
the existence of that city, and the wall is the officially the first major structure built in the area.
Yeah.
I think it's your turn now.
Yeah. So from 7,500 to 6,000 is the new Stone Age.
And from 5,800 is the appearance of clay pottery. Now, the Natufian culture did have some examples of pottery and statues, but they were mainly carved out of stones. This is the first existence of clay specifically. Go ahead.
From 6,000 to 4,500, the Neolithic ceramic period.
Yeah, so you know what ceramic is, right?
Yeah.
Well, just making sure, just making sure.
Some things are universal.
All right, I don't know what's universal and what isn't. All right, so yeah, the Neolithic obviously is we got the early Stone Age, we got the middle Stone Age. The Neolithic is essentially the new Stone Age. Neo meaning new, lithic meaning
Yeah.
ancient.
Really, I
So
thought Neo meant one.
what?
But Neo meant one. I got it. I got it. Oh, there really is a lot. You know,
And
come
there
on.
we go. So, following the Stone Age, we now have the next period in the land of history, the land of Israel, the Chalcolithic period.
That one I've never heard of.
I also never heard of it until I saw this timeline. But the
Oh.
Chalcolithic period is essentially a time of migration and nomads. So, what you're going to see in this period specifically, you're going to see a lot of new cultures starting up. The first, you know, cultures getting their own identities,
Okay.
right? And of course, as seen in this card, it was from 4,800 BC.
Cool.
And it's my turn, I think. So from 4,500, the beginning of the Chalcolithic period.
No, that was actually me, but it's fine.
Are you
Yeah,
are you
yeah, because you were like, you know what ceramic is? I'm like, yeah.
But I think
Oh, that
you
is
read.
me. Never mind. That was me. Sorry. Never mind. You were correct.
See, I'm keeping track of these things.
Good.
So now it's your turn.
At least someone is. From 4,500 to 4,200, the early Chalcolithic period.
Still nothing pretty interesting, but on 4,000 BC was the emergence of the Gasulian culture.
Okay, and from 4,200 to 3,600, the middle Chalcolithic period.
Still nothing pretty interesting, but from between 3,700 to 3,200, the Beersheba culture. Of course, the Beersheba is my city, my hometown, and of course, it is one of the first few cities mentioned in the Bible. It's the city where the prophet Abraham went.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you live near Abraham's well, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, Officially, there are no archaeological evidence that Abraham ever existed. But
Really?
if, oh yeah,
I actually did not know that.
now this doesn't mean he wasn't real. It
Right.
just means he wasn't very good at leaving tracks.
No, totally fair. I just didn't realize that there wasn't any evidence.
There are none. Historically and archaeologically, there are none. We'll get to the first examples of that prove certain things from the Bible in the next period, but Abraham didn't leave much behind. But if he did, the city I live in is more or less the area he would have lived in.
Okay.
All right, it's your turn.
From 3500 to 3300, the Golan culture.
Yes, the Golan, or the Golan Heights, is an area in Israel
The
that
Golan Heights. Yes, I've heard you mention that before.
yeah, the Golan Heights. It's where the Mount Hebron is now. Officially, in modern times, that area used to belong to Syria. That is where the Syrians used to invade Israel in the Yom Kippur War, during which time Israel retaliated, conquered the Golan Heights, and essentially annexed it. So officially, it belongs to Israel. It's a part of the state of Israel now, until such time as a possible peace treaty with Syria, in which case the Golan Heights will be returned to Syria. However, such a peace treaty is looking less likely every single day because of things happening in Syria itself. But during the Chalcolithic period, or rather, during several periods after the Chalcolithic period, the Golan Heights did in fact belong to the Kingdom of Israel, which we will get to later in this breakdown. Just wanted to give you a heads up. So approximately around 3500 BCE, the copper industry started. So this is the first emergence of copper. Go ahead and let me know if you struggle with reading the next one.
So approximately 3400, the Nahal Mishmar treasure.
Yes, Nahal Mishmar, or the Mishmar River to be specific, is an area in the southern area of Israel, the Negev to be specific. I've actually been there a couple of times, and around the 1960s, I believe, they found copper laced treasures in the area while searching for something completely different, by the way. But they found lots of copper based trinkets, lots of jewelry made from the teeth of hippos and elephants and such.
Yep.
They date back to around this time specifically.
Okay.
From 4000 to 3600 was the late Chalcolithic period. Finish it off.
My turn now.
Yep.
And to finish it off, 3600, the end of the Chalcolithic period.
So still, as you're noticing, not a lot of specific things, not a lot of specific dates either. As we get what?
So it didn't sound like it.
Yep. But as we get into some of these next periods, you're gonna start to see things being a bit more precise. And I'm pretty sure that in the new format that my dad made, you actually get specific dates for some things. So
Nice.
again, if you only had time to translate it, you would have had that. But following the Chalcolithic period, we had the Canaanite period.
Yes, I am familiar with the land of Canaan.
Yep, and it was also during the Bronze Age.
Yeah.
You know the Bronze Age, right? So so it started around 3600 BCE, and well, no need for me here. 3600, beginning of the Canaanite period.
Yeah, and at 3000, the early Canaanite period, the first cities.
Yep. So around here we had the first villages. Now we have the first cities.
Yeah.
And from around 2000, about 1,000 years after that, the emergence of city-states.
And from at 1670, the Hyksos?
Hyksos, yeah.
Hyksos captured the land of Israel.
Now the Hyksos are kind of part of the Egyptian dynasty. but not fully properly
Yeah.
the kingdom of Egypt that you're probably familiar with.
They're kind of like a spin-off. And I just realized we're actually getting to the names of people I actually know.
Hey,
Well, because I went through a phase when I was a teenager of learning everything I could about ancient Egypt. So,
I mean, hey, we all have that phase at some point,
oh,
right?
yeah. And I still watch documentaries on that stuff too. Like, it still is something I enjoy. I just love archaeology in general.
It's a fascinating subject.
Oh,
What's not to
totally.
like?
Yeah.
So around about 100 years after that, from on 1570 BCE, the Egyptians expel the Hyksos. So now we're getting into actual Passover stuff from the Bible. Now, see,
Mhm.
the Bible tells us one thing, history tells us another. And yes, I did just paraphrase Nick Fury for a second there, but one thing we do know for certain is there was an Egyptian occupation of
Oh, yeah.
this land that what would become the Jews were exodus from.
Yeah, and
this
that's
area.
also written in the history of Egypt as well. So,
Yeah.
So 1482, Tutmosis III takes Megiddo. That name I don't know, but
Megiddo.
Yeah.
Megiddo.
Did I
Today
pronounce that right? Is it Tutmos?
what?
Did I pronounce the name right?
Thutmose.
Thutmose.
Third.
Oh, okay, so it's a Thut. Okay, because over here we say Tut.
To be fair, no one still to this day knows exactly how the ancient Egyptians pronounced things.
Okay, so it's either or.
Yeah, because they didn't actually use proper letters.
Yeah, so it's a tomato sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Around 1430, the journey of Amenhotep II to Israel.
Yep, and 29 years later, at 1401, you have the journey of King Pharaoh Seti I to Israel.
You do know who Seti was, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, he's I can't remember what Egyptian dynasty it is, but yeah, he's one of one of the most famous pharaohs of ancient Egypt. Like, he's
widely believed by historians to be the pharaoh mentioned
in the Moses story. Yeah,
in the Moses story, the one that ordered the death of the Hebrew babies.
Yeah.
And the father of Ramesses II.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
they found Seti's mummy, correct?
I'm not sure if they found his mummy. They did. I do know they found statues with his image.
Okay.
I'm not sure if they found the mummy though,
Hmm.
because grave robbing mainly.
Naturally.
Most of what we know about mummies comes from Tutankhamun.
Yeah.
And the reason why we know so much about him is because he died when he was about 13, so he didn't have enough time to rule. But he was still a pharaoh. He was still buried as a proper pharaoh.
Yeah.
Just they didn't build as an extravagant monument like all the other pharaohs. They just shoved him to the side. That's why grave robbers avoided his tomb.
Because they never would have thought it was like that much treasure.
Yeah, and that's why we know so much about pharaohs from that guy specifically.
Yeah.
Especially, he wasn't a very important figure, but for what he did to history,
In his time, he wasn't important, but
in his time,
yes,
just like Vincent van Gogh.
Exactly.
Where were we?
Yeah. So you just did Seti the first.
Yeah.
No, I just did Seti the first. Sorry.
So my turn. Around 1286, Ramesses goes to Kadesh, through Israel.
And in 1217, quote unquote, Israel appears on the Merneptah stele.
Yep, the Merneptah stele. First example of the word Israel in non-Hebrew literature. Now, to be clear, I'm pretty sure the Bible itself was written about 200 years after that, but
you mean
the
Bible? You mean the Old Testament?
Yeah, the Hebrew Bible.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, because right.
I said Hebrew Bible.
Yeah, you said Bible, but my mind triggers to my Bible automatically. Sorry.
I mean, there is only one Bible, and that's Doctor Who to me. But whatever. So that leads us into the Judges period. from around 12,000 BC, 1200, sorry, 1200 BCE, and the early Iron Age. Now, the Judges period itself is also mentioned in the Hebrew Bible as the Judges period.
Or you could isn't it just the Old Testament?
I'm trying to be more specific. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So around 1280, Israeli exodus from Egypt. So yeah, the Passover story, Moses, and all that stuff. And now again,
or the book of Exodus.
yeah, but again, what I'm going with is just like Abraham, there's no concrete evidence that Moses existed. If ever he was Moses or Musa, like there are different names and interpretations for the character in the story.
Mhm.
One thing's for certain: there was Egypt, there were Hebrews in there, and they left.
Yeah.
That's the only concrete evidence you have. So go ahead and read.
All right, 1200, the Philistines arrive in Canaan.
Yes, the Philistines, not the Palestinians, the Philistines.
Yeah.
They came from Greece, the island of Crete. And oddly enough, they settled in an area that essentially is Gaza now, modern day Gaza.
Well, there you go.
Well, more so towards Ashkelon and Ashdod, but mostly in Gaza as well. So from 1200 to 1050 BC, the Judges period.
And from 1100 to 1000, settlement by the Israeli tribes.
Meaning the 12 tribes, of course.
Yeah.
And from 1200 to 1000, Israel battles the Philistines back and forth over and over.
And from at approximately 1125, Deborah and Barak.
Do you know who they are, by the way?
Nope. Outside of Barack Obama and how Deborah is a common name.
So Deborah was a prophet, one of the few female prophets, and Barak ben Achikam, I believe, is his full name, was a military leader at the time. Probably could be an interesting topic for another time.
Totally fair. Cool. That actually would be.
Around 1050, the Battle of Even Ezer.
And at 1040, Samuel and the end of the Judges period.
Now, of course, Samuel is Samuel the prophet. He's the one that chose King Saul and King David to rule. Samuel, right? The Samuel prophet.
Not as much as I know King Saul and King David, but I know I've heard of them. I know the next two more.
Cool. That's my turn now. So around 1025, Saul becomes the king of Israel, and of course we talked about him in a couple of other episodes. He was a shitty king. He was a terrible king. So that's why God instructed Samuel to find a new king. And go ahead.
And in 1004, arguably the most famous of the ancient Jewish kings, David becomes king of Israel.
Yep. Now again, the stories of David and Goliath, they are what they are. They are the legends.
Yeah.
But the reign of King David brought about the end of the Judges period and the beginning of the Israelite period.
And that's where the Star of David comes from as well.
Not exactly.
Oh, really?
It's called the Star of David. If you actually go back long enough in history, it was actually a symbol from ancient India that the Jews brought over and made it their own. But that's a topic for another time.
Yeah, never mind. Sorry.
That takes a whole lot of other research. But the Israelite period was around the time when King David decided to build the first Jewish temple, also commonly known as Solomon's Temple. But moving on, so around 965, Solomon becomes the king of Israel. Solomon, of course, being the son of David. Now, because of some shitty things that David did during the time he was king, God decided that his son will be the last king of the unified kingdom of Israel, but because Solomon was such a good king, God decided he'd wait for his reign to come to an end, then divide the land. Now, again, this is biblical stuff. You can choose to believe it if you like. Fact of the matter is, historically, Solomon was the last king of the unified kingdom of Israel before the kingdom split into two different kingdoms. Go ahead and
So
read.
now it's the split of the United Monarchy in 928.
Yep, with two tribes still occupying, still being the kingdom of Judea, and the other 10 tribes being the kingdom of Israel. And around 925, the Shishak journey to Israel. Do you know who Shishak is?
I know we've talked about him before on the show.
I'm pretty sure we haven't.
Well, then we've discussed the name somewhere because I've heard it.
Not on this show, not with me. But yeah, Shishak is an Egyptian pharaoh.
Maybe it was in a documentary. Though.
Here's the thing: he's an Egyptian pharaoh, so maybe that's where you heard the
That's
name.
probably what it is then. Yeah, because I'm like, I know that name somewhere.
All right, cool. It's your turn now.
Yeah. Simca Yakovici, he's a documentarian. That's who I heard mention it.
See, we got there in the end.
Yeah. Oh, my turn. 853. Ahab in Karkar battle.
Mm-hmm. Ahab was the king of Israel at the time. 722. Israel is destroyed by the Assyrians. The Assyrians, of course, are a kingdom residing in what is modern-day Syria, and they destroyed specifically the kingdom of Israel, the 10 tribes, not the kingdom of Judea, and that's where the 10 tribes essentially got lost and came back a couple hundred years later as the Sumerians.
Oh, Sumerians, cool.
I think it's your turn next.
Yeah. So in 701, wow, this is gonna be a hard one. Sennacherib destroys Lachish.
Sennacherib destroys Lachish.
Close.
Sorry. But yeah,
No, you do correct me.
if need be.
Yeah, if need be.
And around 609, Josiah dies in the Megiddo battle. Oh boy. Do you need some help with this next one?
Jehoiakim rebels against
Joachim.
Sorry?
Joachim.
I was actually not too far off.
Or you could just say Joachim if it makes it easier for
Oh,
you.
like Phoenix?
Yeah.
In 601, Joachim rebels against Babylon.
Yeah. Technically it's Jehoiakim. But Joachim, I think, sounds easier for you. But again, remember, this is the Neo-Babylonian Empire, not the original Babylon, right? In around 589, Tzedkiah rebels against Babylon as well.
And to wrap it up, in 586, the first temple destroyed by the Babylonians.
The New Babylonians. But in the original format, in the Hebrew format of this timeline, my dad actually includes the name of the leader of the New Babylonians that destroyed the first temple, Nebuchadnezzar. Which I'm guessing now you understand why he didn't include it in this one.
Nebuchadnezzar?
Nebuchadnezzar.
That reminds me of I had a D&D campaign where we encountered a king called King Never Remember. I never remember. King Never Remember. What? King Never Remember. What? that actually cracked my DM up for like 5 minutes. It was great.
So he's like the silence. You can't remember him?
Apparently.
Now, after the first temple was destroyed, the Babylonians fully conquered the land of Israel and dispersed all the Jews. By the way, since the kingdom of Judea, that's when they changed the name from the Hebrews to the Jews. So all the Jews were displaced around the Babylonian Empire. Now, does that give you a hint towards what the next period would be named?
The Judean period?
No.
Oh.
I was actually trying to lead you off, but, well, you went in a completely different direction. It's the Persian period.
Completely off. Yeah, short Babylonian. I like that.
Yeah, there was a short Babylonian rule, but for the most part, it was primarily known as the Persian period. The Babylonian rule started in 586 and ended around 538 with the Persian period. And me going in first, so I mean, well, I just did that from 586 to 536. The Babylonians ruled Judea.
And in 585, the murder of Gedaliah ben Achikam.
Very close. Gedaliah ben Achikam.
Close.
Around 538, the Edict of Cyrus, and Jews returned from Babylon. Are you familiar with the Edict of Cyrus?
No, I am not.
It's a pretty big, notable thing here. So after the new Babylonian was demolished by the Persian emperor, the Persian Emperor Cyrus, widely believed to be the most popular, at least among the Jews, the most popular king of Persia, basically decreed that the Jews have a right to return to their homeland and build a new temple after the last one was destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar. So essentially, in a way, this is an early example of Zionism.
Oh.
Like, it's not called that, but it's interesting to note. It's very similar to what Zionism is and what Zionism became. What? It's a precursor. Exactly. Yeah. So he wrote this edict saying that any Jew who wishes to leave Persia and go back to the land of Israel and rebuild the temple is allowed to. Any Jews who decide to stay are welcome to. And he even also decreed that his armies will help the Jews build their second temple. So he did a lot of really good things for the Jews. And a lot of Jews did actually stay in Persia at the time. Still to this day, there's about 10,000 Jews still living in Iran, descendants of the same Jews from there.
So my turn. Oh, fuck, man. Oh. 538, Sheshbazzar leads the Jewish people.
Sheshbazzar. Yeah. He led them from Persia back to the land of Israel in order for 540 start rebuilding the rebuilding of the temple begins. And so they started building it before Sheshbazzar led the people back to Israel, but well, that's around the time where he led them there. Go ahead and finish this up.
Finally, an easy one in 515, Second Temple completed.
Yeah, so they started building it around 540. 2 years later, Sheshbazzar led the Jewish migration back into the land of Israel, and around 515, that's when the Second Temple was completed. Now, in 458, Ezra returns from Babylon. Ezra was a great scholar, a literate, literature, novelist. Yeah.
All right. Also in 458, the Great Assembly established.
The assembly is what essentially is. In Hebrew, it's called the Great Knesset. Now, Knesset today, in modern times, is basically the Israeli parliament. It wasn't that back then. It was more a place of spiritual and religious gathering, essentially a place for the wise old men of the Jews to congregate. And the word Beit Knesset is the Hebrew word for a synagogue. So essentially, it was a big, major synagogue.
Okay.
And now, on around 445, Nehemiah returns from Babylon as well.
That sounds like a chant.
I don't know what you're saying, but yeah. So he was like the shit. What's the word? Why am I tripping over my word? Not a colleague, not a protege, but let's say
Mentor?
colleague. What?
Mentor? Mentor?
No. Let's just say colleague of Ezra, another person from the same field.
Colleague.
Yeah, colleague. Yeah. So read the last one.
Yeah. 398, second return of Jews from Babylon.
Yeah. So they didn't all return all at once, just like Zionism and just like the Aliyahs. They returned in waves, basically. Now,
Mhm.
if you know your history, can you tell me what came after the Persian period?
Roman.
Not quite there yet.
Not yet? Okay.
The Hellenistic period.
Right.
Greeks, essentially. Now, ancient Greece also had several different periods, but arguably the longest and most successful of the Greek Empire was the Hellenistic period. This is essentially the time of Alexander the Great, for lack of a better word, right?
Right. Okay.
And you can see that in the first entry because around 332, Alexander the Great captures the land of Israel.
Yeah.
Of course, Alexander the Great led a massive empire that stretched all the way into India. But he also, naturally, he had to go through Israel first because.
And if I'm not mistaken, isn't he the last person to quote unquote conquer the world?
I mean, unless you want to count Hitler. But
Well, the known world.
the known. Okay, fine. Yeah. Then I suppose yes.
Yeah. Yeah. They still haven't found his tomb, but they're really digging.
I mean, if you watch Marvel's Moon Knight series,
Fair.
which I dislike, but whatever.
All right. So my turn. 321. The War of Successions begins.
You know what that is, right?
No, I do not.
So, of course, Alexander the Great got.
Can I take a stab? It's a war to determine who is Alexander the Great's successor.
Yeah, exactly, because he died age of 35, no son, no heir. Yeah, they couldn't decide who was going to take his place, and that's what eventually led to the fall of the Macedonian Empire. Now, around 301, the rule of the Egyptian Ptolemaios. Again, no one knows how to pronounce these things because they were ancient Egyptians. Get over it, people.
Yeah.
Your turn.
217, the Battle of Raphia.
Yes. Now, this is significant today because Rafiah is what's now known in modern times as the Rafah Passage, which is essentially the border between the Gaza Strip and the Sinai Peninsula, meaning Egypt. And it's relevant to today's context because that is where the Israeli hostages are being brought to, and then they cross over into Egypt before being released back into Israel.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
it's relevant for today's context. Where were we? So 201, the rule of the Syrian Seleucids. Seleucids was the name of the leader. The name of the empire was the Seleucids.
And in 198, Antiochus captures the land of Israel.
Yes, Antiochus or Antiochus, big, major, important figure in Israeli history. Subject for another time on this show, but essentially, he's basically the reason for the story of Hanukkah.
That would be why I've heard the name Antioch before.
Yeah, Antiochus, otherwise known as Antiochus Epiphanes, and around 172, Jerusalem becomes a polis, and a polis, for those of you who don't know, it's essentially a province of the Hellenistic Empire, what was left of it in any case, and basically its own governing thing. And we'll get into more detail in the Hanukkah episode, but it's a significant part that Jerusalem specifically became Poland's.
Your turn.
And it's your turn.
Oh, we just did Jerusalem because no, we didn't just do Jerusalem becomes Polis, did we?
We just did.
Frig. I must have misheard you say that phrase then. Antiochus plunders the temple in 169.
Yep, the second Jewish temple, obviously. Now, about a year later, in 168, the Maccabean revolt for liberation. Again, all part of the story of Hanukkah.
Yep. The Maccabees.
Finish us off.
In 167, the Battle of Beit Haron.
I actually did pretty well. Now, again, if you know your history, what came after the Greeks?
Can you bring up the last one just so I can see what year we ended on? Now we're getting into the Romans.
Not quite yet.
Fuck!
This is something exclusively for the land of Israel.
Yeah, never heard.
That's why I wanted to lead you on that trail. So,
Bastard.
the Hasmonean period, around 167 BCE. So after the defeat of Antiochus and the banishment of the Macedonians and the Hellenists and the Greeks, whichever way you want to call them, that began the Hasmonean dynasty, which essentially is a series of kingdoms in the land of Israel, which lasted for about 100 years, beginning in 165 with the Emmaus battle.
And in 164, Judah recaptures Jerusalem.
Yeah, Judah the Maccabees, to be specific. Again, the story of Hanukkah, we'll cover this in another episode, but in 162, battles in Hadassah and Beit Zechariah. I'm so happy I got to read that one.
Yeah, that's an ugly one to pronounce. In 160, Judah the Maccabee dies in battle.
Womp womp. Around 141, Shimon captures the Harka in Jerusalem. The Harka is citadel in the city of Jerusalem.
In 134, the rule of John Hyrcanus.
Hyrcanus.
The first.
Yeah, we talked about him in the episode where we talked about coins, if you remember.
Yes, we did.
Around 104, Alexander Janus, or Alexander Yanai, becomes king. We talked about him in the coins episode also.
And in 76, the rule of Queen Shlomzion.
Very good.
Yay!
And in 67 BCE, the end of the Hasmonean dynasty.
And it ends in 64 with Pompey conquers the land of Israel. Now, hold on. That's not the Pompey, is it?
I mean, Pompeius, the emperor.
Okay, because you put Pompey. Or your dad, whoever wrote this did Pompey.
That's not me. That's my dad.
Okay,
Now,
yeah. Okay,
that's how officially his name was spelled. The city Pompeii you're referring to is spelled slightly different.
Yeah. I just was wondering if he was just the same thing misspelled, but no, I know how the other one's spelled.
They named the city after him, but they spell it differently.
Okay, did not know that part.
Yeah. So yeah, Pompeius, of course, the city of Pompeii was named after him, and so in 64 BC, this whole area was conquered, and now we get into the Roman period.
Fucking finally, at least the era that I'm familiar with.
So from 63 BC. Now, of course, the Roman period existed way before that, but 63 was when they reached this region.
Right, when they took over Israel, when they conquered.
Yep. And
It's
my
the time
turn.
of Jesus, folks.
What?
It's at the time of Jesus, folks.
Praise Jesus.
Yeah. Raise the
And-
Lord.
And now it's my turn again. From 63 BCE, Pompeius conquers Jerusalem.
Yep, and from 37 to 4 BCE, the rule of King Herod.
Yep. Around 0 was the birth of Jesus. Now this is the point of contention.
That's what I was going to bring up. Yeah.
He put 0 because that's what people
That's
know.
what's more commonly accepted. But if you do look at it archaeologically, isn't it like 4 BCE or something like that?
It's disputed. It's between 4 and 6 BC.
Okay.
But 4 is the more agreed upon because Jesus died when he was 34.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and then of course the reason why Mary and Joseph had to flee to Bethlehem is because of King Herod, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that's so yeah. That, like you look at that, yeah, makes sense.
And also because she was pregnant, but they weren't married yet.
Right.
So like they were trying to keep
Well,
that a circuit.
Yeah.
A secret. Sorry. I think it's your. Whoops. I think it's your turn next.
Yes. In 30, probably one of the most famous moments in history, the crucifixion of Jesus.
Next. Crucifixion. Yes. Good. Out of the door, line on the left, 1 cross each.
Didn't see that coming.
How did you not see that coming?
Because I was too busy reading and wasn't thinking about it.
All
That
right.
was great. Oh, it was great.
Perfect timing.
Yep. Yo, come on, perfect timing. Of course, you fucking had it teed up.
I have been planning this.
Yes.
So, 66 AD, the Great Revolt begins in the north. Now, we also talked about the Great Revolt in the coins episode, if you remember.
we did.
And
And
this led to,
in 70, the fall of Jerusalem.
yep, which also led to, in 70, the Second Temple destroyed by the Romans. Emperor Titus, if you remember.
Mhm.
And then, of course, Pompeii happened. The Pompeii event.
Yes.
So, again, make your assumptions as to what was the reason, if you will. That I'm just telling you that's what history says.
Hell hath no fury like God. Yes, 73. Yeah, 73, the fall of Masada.
Yep, which was the continuation of the Great Revolt, where upon realizing that the Jews had no chance of surviving this, they all just committed mass suicide of Masada. Hence the phrase "Masada shall never fall again." Between 115 to 117, the revolt of the Jews in the diaspora.
And finally, and something we have definitely talked about several times, 132 to 135, Bar Kokhba's revolt.
בר כוכבא לא מת! בר כוכבא חי ויחיה לעד! יחי בר כוכבא! יחי! 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 יחי!
Did you
Yes,
see
we
that
have.
one coming?
No.
Good. So yeah, from this point, this is where we are no longer talking about the land of Israel. We are not talking about how the Romans renamed it to Syria Palestina. Not Syria Palestine, Syria Palestina. There's a difference, okay? Learn your history, people. So it wasn't called Palestine, it was Palestina. Just wanted to put a fine point on that. And you do know what happened to the Roman Empire after that, right?
It fell. They disappeared.
Nope, it actually converted to Christianity.
Right,
And-
yeah, because of I forgot that was right around here because of Emperor Constantine, because at that time, while Christianity was a thing, there weren't under one umbrella like we are now. It was basically like all these different little tribes, I guess you would. And
The
that's
cult
where
of Jesus, as they called themselves.
right, and that's actually where the Gnostic Bibles, or majority of them, the Gnostic Gospels, sorry, that's where the majority of them come from.
Yep.
Is from them. And so, yeah, and then Emperor Constantine got together the Council of Nicaea, where basically the heads of everybody came together and decided what goes in the Bible and what doesn't.
Yep. And that is when the Roman Empire became the Byzantine Empire. And that brings us to the Byzantine period, which in the land of Palestina was from 324 AD.
I do also want to say though about the whole Constantine thing, though, if you really do your archaeological history, there is significant evidence to suggest that he manipulated
the aura and myth of Jesus to reflect himself.
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh
of course.
yeah, it's
I
insane.
don't even need archaeological stuff. I studied art in high school.
Yeah,
That's basically. I mean, the dude
What he
basically thought he was God.
yeah, that's what he did.
I mean, jeez, the God complex on that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think it's my turn again. 324, Roman Empire adopts Christianity.
Yep. And in 326, Queen Helen visits Jerusalem.
335, Church of the Holy. I've never been able to pronounce this. Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Sepulchre. Is
That's
built.
you got it. That's at least that's how I was raised. That's how I'm familiar with it, is sepulture.
Well, for us, it's the Church of Birth. I never understood why they had to come up with that stupid name for it.
Well,
but whatever.
let's quickly find out what it means.
But it's your turn to read.
In 361, Julian gives Jerusalem to the Jews.
Really? You don't say. Someone gave Jerusalem to the Jews before Islam was a thing? What a shocker!
Okay, so sepulture is a noun meaning a small room or monument cut in rock or built of stone in which a dead person is laid or buried.
So it's not the Church of the Birth, it was the Church of Burial.
Yeah, because that is where, according to tradition, is where Christ was buried.
Before he got up and went and left,
Yeah.
right?
Hence, that makes sense, sepulture. Because because at least from the pictures I've seen, it's basically like a fucking room in a rock covered by a stone.
Yep.
So
And no one is allowed to look in, so no one can dispute the fact that Jesus' body isn't there. It's like Schrodinger's Jesus in a way.
Mhm.
He's dead, but he's not dead. He's in the box, but he's not in the box.
is he really? Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead, prove me otherwise. Am I right?
No, I'm gonna pass
I
over to
wasn't-
the.
I wasn't yelling at you. I was just presenting.
Oh,
the situation.
gotcha. In general, okay.
So where was we?
363.
363. Julian the Heretic dies. Dun dun dun.
And 5 years later, in 368, the completion of the Jerusalem Talmud.
Yeah, which is it's a form of learning, in Jewish form of learning.
Mhm.
In 426, completion of the Bavli Talmud. We'll get to that sometime.
188 years later, in 614, Palestine falls to the Persians.
Now again, it's Palestina, but he wrote Palestine because that's the more accepted name. 629, the Byzantines recapture Palestina.
And to round it out, in 638, the end of the Byzantine period.
And do you know what replaced the Byzantines?
No.
The Muslims.
Yeah, I hear the
No,
contempt in your voice.
Now, there's no contempt. I'm just making it sound dramatic.
Oh, okay. I was like, wow, let's get political.
Let's not.
No,
Now,
I'm kidding.
in this format specifically, he wrote the early Arab period. You'll know why later down the line, but in other versions of this, he also wrote the Muslim period. So
Okay.
either or is fine. Both are correct. And of course, as mentioned previously, it started around 638 AD, and in 632, the Muslim conquests begin. Of course, the Muslim conquest, the Prophet Muhammad, the city of Mecca, which is now in Saudi Arabia, starts his grand conquest of the region, goes all the way to the Iberian Peninsula. But of course, as many did before him, he had to get through Israel to get there. So, not if you look at the timeline, not quite yet in the land of Palestina just yet, but that's when he started his journey.
I just want to say I do hope, since your dad wrote this, he actually learned how to properly spell the English spelling of Muslim.
That's not.
No, M-U-S.
Oh yeah, you're right. Well, like I said, it's an old format.
Oh, nice. I see that. All right. In 636, the Muslims defeat the Byzantines.
Yep, and in 638, the Muslims enter Jerusalem. And that is around the time where they changed from Palestina to Palestine. It was easier for them to pronounce. So that is more or less where the name Palestine came from.
Gotcha.
Of course, it was named Palestina after the Philistines to mock the Jews. Your turn.
All right. In 640, the conquest of Caesarea Maritima.
Yep. Around 660, the rule of the Umayyad dynasty.
31 years later, in 691, the Dome of the Rock is built.
Do you know what the Dome of the Rock
This one
is?
I do not know.
It's basically the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the famous mosque with the golden dome in the city of Jerusalem. That allegedly that is the rock where the Prophet Muhammad stood on before he rose up to the heavens in the Al-Maharaja. But the thing is, Jerusalem itself is never mentioned in the Quran once. It's more for political reasons because they wanted a claim of Jerusalem to belong to them. The Al-Aqsa Mosque is the third most important mosque in Islam, and it's very, very important to Muslims today. Case in point, you see the Al-Aqsa Mosque in a lot of Palestinian organizations, like Hamas, for example. They had it front and center on the thing, and the most recent attack on Israel, Hamas named it the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Sorry, the Al-Aqsa Flood. That is what they call it. So it's a very important site for Muslims today, which, again, trying to avoid politics as much as possible. Muslims are allowed in the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Jews are not. Recently, some idiots tried to change that, which may or may not have led to some conflicts in the region. But yeah, so the Al-Aqsa Mosque, that is also the name of the Dome of the Rock. Very, very important to Muslims today. My turn. So from 650, the rule of the Abbasid dynasty.
From 750, because we did not go back in time.
What did I say?
650.
Did I? It's late. Okay.
I know. I know. I can tell we're in the home stretch. So, all right, 970. The rule of the Fatimid dynasty.
Yeah. So all of these are just Arab tribes, all of which are Muslims. Sorry. From 1061, the Seljuk Turks capture Palestine.
And to round it out, in 1096, the Fatimids recapture Palestine.
Yep. And a few years later, can you guess what the next period is? It's one you might know.
Well, we just came off the Arabic, Muslim.
Well, it's more Muslim than Arabic, but whatever.
God damn it. I'm drawing a blank.
The Crusader period.
The Crusades, right. I didn't realize that's what it was called.
Yep, from 1099. Now, in newer versions of this timeline, he also added, and there was a short Ayyubid rule here, but I think he put it on the thing here. 1099, the First Crusade, Palestine was captured by the Crusaders, I think.
And in 1146, the Second Crusade.
1171, Saladin rules Egypt, or Salahaddin, as I mostly know him as.
In 1187, the Battle of Hattin.
In 1191, the Third Crusade.
The next year, in 1192, the Crusaders ruled the coastal plains.
1226, the Sixth Crusade.
I like how they skipped 4 and 5.
Well, I guess they weren't that important.
Apparently not. 1229, the Crusaders returned to Jerusalem.
In 1245, the Muslims recaptured Jerusalem.
And in 1291, the Mamluks expel the Crusaders.
Yep, which leads us into the
The Mam-
Mamluk period. Now, of course, Mamluks, we kind of mentioned them a couple of episodes ago. They're also Muslims, but they originated from Egypt specifically. But they're not specifically tied to Salahuddin or Saladin. They're their own thing. Okay, so moving back into the Mamluks, in 1250, the Mamluks rule in Egypt, which you'll notice is several years before when they enter, when they expel the Crusaders from Palestine.
Oh. All right, in 1256, Sultan Baybars conquers the north.
And 1256, the Nimrod fortress is built.
I've actually heard of this Nimrod Fortress. Can't remember where though. I think it was in a documentary.
Yeah. If you watch all these documentaries, you might want to retain some of the knowledge you'll keep
Do
learning.
you realize, 50, how many documentaries I've seen in my 36 years?
And what's the point of watching all of them if you don't retain the knowledge? Why else would you watch for documentaries if not to learn?
To learn in the moment.
All right, fine.
It's 1260, the Mongols capture Palestine.
Yeah, so you know the Mongols, Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan. Yep. This is how far they got.
Mm-hmm.
Their empire was massive. This is how far they reached. And you also know where else in Europe they got to, right? There's a reason I'm hanging up on this.
I know they actually reached pretty far north.
I mean, west.
Well, you know what I mean. I want to say like England or something like that. Like they got pretty fucking far.
Not that far. They reached all the way into Italy, and so the citizens of a city called Venice realized that the only way to stop them was to flood the city to stop them. That's why still to this day Venice is flooded. Like the streets are all water. It was all just a ploy to stop the Mongols from reaching any further into Italy. So that's some fun history notes for you.
Cool.
Where were we? 1260, the Battle of Ain Jalut. I'm so happy I'm the one that read that.
Yeah, no shit. 1299, Mongolian invasion, Jerusalem captured.
Yeah, again, this is where the Mongols got to. They actually captured Jerusalem for a bit. In 1303, the Mamluks defeat the Mongols.
And in 1401, Prince Timur captures Palestine.
Now, 1492, the Spanish expulsion. Of course, this is all part of the Spanish Inquisition, where after the Inquisitors realized that...
that clip.
What? Yeah, we should. We should bring it up.
Yeah.
But eventually, when the Inquisitors realized that you can't convert the Jews, they're sticking to their faith, they just stopped killing them over it. They just expelled them. This specifically didn't happen in the land of Israel, but it's important. It's an important part of the Jewish history. They expelled them from Spanish through Gibraltar into Morocco. That's why still to this day, many of the North African Jews are labeled as Sephardic Jews. Sephardi meaning Spanish or Spaniard. Go ahead and finish us off.
Also in 1492, besides Christopher Columbus going on his infamous voyage, the Jews were expelled. Expelled Jews arrived in Palestine.
Well, we're not talking about that because, I mean, we're talking about what happens to the Jews, right? Yeah, so, again, for further evidence that the Jews were here well over 500 years ago. So, that's history for you.
Mm-hmm.
And now we move into the Ottoman period. What?
The Ottoman Empire is just known over here.
Yep, the Ottoman Empire from 1516, starting their 400 rule of the region. And we got from 1516, Sultan Salim I captures Palestine.
And in 1540, Solomon builds. Is that supposed to be
Suleiman?
So nothing, not Solomon.
Nope, it's Suleiman.
Okay, Suleiman builds the walls of Jerusalem.
Yep. which I believe are still standing. Now, in 1720, the Har al-Omar conquers the north. The Har al-Omar, by the way, was very friendly to the Jews as much as one can be at the time, and he actually was a big advocate for Jews coming back to their land before there was officially Zionism. He actually wanted the Jews to come back and resettle the land. He was actually very friendly to the Jews, as friendly as one could be at the time. Your turn.
75, Ahmed al-Jazar Pasha, rules Acre.
Yes, Acre, also known as Akko to us. 1799, Napoleon's visit to Palestine. There's a very funny story, not funny, but there's a interesting story about that. Is when he toured in Palestine, he saw the Jews. It was on Tu B'Av, where the infamous date where both the Jewish temples fell, several hundred years apart from one another, but both fell in the same date, and they were mourning, they were fasting, they were really sad about this. He asked one of his soldiers, "Why are all these Jews mourning? What happened to them?" He's like, they were mourning the fall of their temple. When was that? About 1,500 years ago, or something like that. 2,000 years ago, something like that. And Napoleon took a look back at them and said, "A people that remembers a tragedy this big thousands of years later cannot be defeated."
You're not wrong.
Napoleon was a very wise man.
He did. He had his moments.
I think it's your turn.
Yeah. In 1831, Ibrahim Pasha conquers Palestine.
1860, the Jews build outside the wall of Jerusalem, that is.
In 1882, the beginning of the first Aliyah.
Now, Aliyah, it was when the Jews start the big migration. It's another name for migration, but Aliyah is migration specifically for Jews coming to the land of Israel. That is what Aliyah means. It's the Jews coming back home to reclaim their homeland. And it's a precursor to 1898, Herzl visits Palestine. Of course, we talked about Herzl a bunch of times. He is the father of Zionism. He's the one that came up with the idea that the Jews need a home to call their own, and that home is the land of Israel as given to them by God. Now, of course, with this visit, he finally dropped his stupid idea of having that home for the Jews being Uganda.
No. I did not know that.
We talked about this in one of our episodes.
In 1904, the beginning of the second Aliyah.
So, more and more Jews are starting to migrate to this land, and I think you know where this is going, right? You know what happens.
Modern?
What?
Well, the founding of the land of Israel, obviously, but is this the modern era?
Yeah. Well, technically, the Ottoman Empire is part of the modern era, but you know what happens a few years after the second Aliyah, right?
Yeah, if you're talking in the next decade, World War One.
Yep, World War One, where the Ottomans are expelled, which of course leads us to the British Mandate of Palestine from 1917, the end of. Yeah, I love this picture. The end of World War One. Sorry, the beginning of the British Mandate. In 1917, the British Army enters Jerusalem.
1919, the third Aliyah.
1920, the Tel Hai battle. Very interesting topic for another time.
In 1921, is it Haffa riots?
Jaffa.
Jaffa. Okay, I just wasn't sure if it was a hard or a soft J.
Also known as Yafo. And now, no idea why he changed the numbers with the words, but 1929, the Palestine riots. Now, notice how it says Palestine riots, not the Palestinian riots, because historically there were no Palestinians yet, but the Arabs revolted a lot, not just in this region, not just in what was known as Palestine, but all over the areas that were colonized by the French and British. That's why, if I can take our beautiful faces off for a second. Hold on. That's why you see all these borders being drawn so accurately. They were drawn by the British specifically for the purposes of separating Arabs from each other and dropping them in different places, so there will be it'll be harder for them to revolt and be easier to quell any revolutions that might arise. Go ahead.
1936 to 39, the Arab Rebellion.
And from 1936 to 1945, the Homa and Migdal settlements, more Jewish settlements in the land of Israel, or Palestine, as people called it back then.
And in 1937, the Peel Committee.
Yes. Now, you remember what the Peel Committee is?
Unfortunately, I don't.
They're the ones that officially birthed the idea of the two-state solution, a Jewish state for the Jews and an Arab state for the Arabs. Notice how I didn't say an Israeli state and a Palestinian state, right? Because those two weren't a thing yet. Now, the Peel Committee officially wanted to give the Jews 20% of the land and the Arabs 80% of the land. The Jews weren't happy about it, but they accepted it. They said, like, okay, at least we get some stretch of land. The Arabs did not like that idea, and they said no. And so the mandate continued. There's going to be a very interesting motif happening here. In 1939 to 1945, the Holocaust in Europe. Now, of course, it didn't technically happen here, but it still happened, just like the Spanish expulsion. Now, of course, it also didn't officially start in 1939, but it wasn't the systematic murder of Jews just yet, but that's more or less when World War II started.
Yeah. And to round it out, 1945 to 48, the Jewish illegal immigration.
Yes. Now, you remember that after World War II, the British were like, hey, listen, we're sorry that you were slaughtered by the millions, but you still can't come here. I mean, we're not going to let you come. Don't be crazy. Go back and stay where you lived, where people try to kill you. I mean, you can't come here. That's why a lot of the immigrations to the land of Israel was done illegally. We talked about this in our first episode, I think.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. It was almost a year ago.
Well, a year ago.
Yeah.
And what way to,
we're into the modern age, right?
Yep. And what better way to round this up than by the State of Israel with 1948? And look at that! My dad did a little promotional thing for his website at the bottom there. So he gave his contact information.
There you go. Start us off then. Bring us home.
Yep. So 1947, the UN Resolution 181. Again, the two-state solution, an Arab state and a Jewish state. The Jews were overjoyed that they finally have a place to call home. The Arabs were not happy because they didn't want Jews on their land. So all the Arab nations attacked and lost. You remember that much, right? So again, this is the second time that the Arabs in the area were offered a state of their own, and they rejected it. The second out of 7 times.
In 1948, officially, the State of Israel is established.
And in 1948 as well, Jerusalem is the capital of Israel.
1956, the Sinai War.
Yeah. My dad's father fought in this war, I believe.
So your grandfather?
There's a reason why I phrased it that way.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Okay, so 1967, the 6 Days War. We talked about this one also.
Yes, and we also talked about this one as well, 1973, the Yom Kippur War.
My mom's father fought in this war. See, I told you there's a reason I phrased it that way.
Right.
In 1979, peace with Egypt.
And 1982, the First Lebanon War.
My dad fought in this war.
I know where we're going with this in the next one.
Not necessarily. 1994, peace with Jordan. I was one.
Not this one. In
No, I was
1990,
1 years old.
you've been 2 for this one. The Rabin's murder in 1995.
Rabin. The murder of Yitzhak Rabin or Isaac Rabin. Again, very important moment in history. First ever Israeli prime minister to be assassinated. Netanyahu, watch your back. But we would have talked about this about a week ago. Was, I believe, the anniversary of his murder. But again, other things took precedent. People barely talked about this this year. So it's an interesting topic for sure, but we couldn't talk about it as much. Now, bring us home.
No, this is you. I just did Rabin's murder.
Oh yeah, right. So 2006, the second Lebanon War.
Now I was going to say this is where you fought, but then I realized the math is way off.
Yeah, I was in high school.
Yeah, you would have been 12.
13.
Yeah.
I did fight in the Steadfast Edge in 2014, which is not on here. Probably will be in the expanded part, but I do believe that there, before he did the expanded part, he also made another edition before making the expanded part, which he included 2020, the coronavirus crisis. And now, sadly, it looks as though he might need to add a new entry, 2023, the October 7th massacre.
Yeah.
And that, more or less, is the entire history, the entire timeline of the land of Israel, which some people call Palestine, but it's called the land of Israel.
Yeah.
And
so yeah.
do you want and do you notice something interesting throughout all the different time periods we went over?
I didn't notice anything particular.
Something that's good, something noticeable by its absence.
I don't know why I'm blanking on this.
There was no mention of the Palestinian people in any of the periods.
Okay, I
You know
didn't.
why? Because
Didn't
they
think
didn't
about that.
exist until 1964.
So 20,
Yeah.
16 years later, after you guys.
Yep. You know what they were called? You know what they called themselves before 1964?
Israelis?
Arabs. They didn't call themselves Palestinians. They called themselves Palestinians from 1964 onward for political reasons. And you know how I know this? Because their leaders basically said as much when that happened. But you know, people will continue to deny history till the day they die. So this has been my topic. It actually went a lot faster than I thought it would.
I actually like the way we did that back to 1-8.
Yeah, me too. It was a way to make sure you're still awake. So what is your topic next week?
So we're going to have a little fun next week, and it's actually my last topic kind of sparked this next topic, the way we did it. So we're going to have a little game. If 50 guess the TV show filmed in Canada? Basically, I've got a list of TV shows and movies, and I'm going to give you no. I'm going to give you I'm going to do like a Schmodown thing.
So how about any show ever made?
No, but there's definitely some that even I didn't know were filmed here when I was doing the list. So yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm going to have either a question or some clues, and I'm going to see if you can guess the TV show or series
Or movie?
or movie or
Cool.
series of movies or movie universe.
All right, count down.
But I mean, I've got a good 50, at least 50.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, where can the people of the interwebs find you when you're not researching history and watching documentaries about ancient Egypt?
You can find me over my personal Instagram and Twitter at soda_the_saxman, and you can find me doing my usual shenanigans here at 50 on the Northern Entertainment Group.
And you can also find me on my own YouTube channel, 50 Shades of Geek. I do weekly reviews of every single Doctor Who episode for 1963, although it's 2023 now. And you can also find me talking even more Doctor Who on this channel, on The Greatest Show in the Galaxy, and every Thursday on this show, Fun with Flags. And you can also check out all the other channels from the wider Benverse at large, like Something to Talk About. Are you still doing So Dig in Wrestling, by the way?
It's on hiatus at the moment.
Okay, but, well, there's the logo, so I'm still going to mention it. There's also Galaxy Geeks, Multiverse of Geekdom, Movie Lovers Unite, The Midnight Cinema, 8-Ton Reviews, and, of course, the ever so mismentioned In the Front Row. So thank you all for watching if you have. And always remember, we are doing this not for ourselves. We are doing this for the love of this guy right here, our good friend, good dearly departed Ben, which we will be celebrating the 1 year anniversary
Pretty
of his
soon.
passing in a month. Now, I don't know if you knew this, Soda, but according to Jewish tradition, we celebrate the first memorial 11 months after the passing, not 12 months, meaning yesterday was the first memorial for his passing.
And you say Canadians are weird.
I'm not saying I approve of that. I'm just saying
No,
that's
I
the way
actually
it is.
I did not know that.
Cool. For some reason, just the first memorial is 11 months later. Anything after that, it's the 1 year anniversary, the year anniversary. I don't know why. I don't know why.
It is
Just a
very
thing.
strange.
Yeah. But whatever. So thank you all for watching. If you have, always remember whether you're a historian, an archaeologist, or just a fan of places, always remember to let your geek flag fly. That is all we're really asking. So see ya.
Later.